We are back with another episode of For the Love of Guitars, and joining me today is the bodacious beard of wisdom, the master of minstrels, the magnanimous muscle man of guitar, the Ubie. How's it going, Ubie?
Hey, it is. I am all of those things in my mind, at least. I'm. Some people say I'm the hardest man in the guitar world here. Oops.
You're gonna
Sorry.
rip that shirt. Be careful.
You
How's
know, Keith.
everything? How's everything going?
Things are going crazy for me. I've got so much going on in my world right now. And speaking of crazy things going on, you are, according to chat, 7 subs away from 7K. Or from 1K, excuse me, 7K. It'd be great if you were away from 7K. 1K.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts. Like I pretty much stumbled on kind of video series looking over Guthrie Trap because the guy just moves really quick and gives quote unquote lessons. I think people tune into his videos just for the stories he tells and then the brief snippets of lessons that he puts on, which it's very rich, but very hard to follow because he just moves so quick. Doing dissections of his videos and slowing it down for everybody, which is what I do, slow everything down. A lot of people have been digging that. Like I've gotten a lot of traction, and just every day it keeps on growing and growing and growing. So finally, I think I hit something that people enjoyed, and so hey, 1,000, and I got a special announcement to make once I hit that 1,000 subscriber count. I'm gonna be doing a giveaway.
Ooh.
You want me to show it now? I'll show it.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So I had this third dimension. This might be backwards on the stream, but it's a third dimension TC Electronics chorus pedal. I just received it. I did open it, so it is technically used for whatever tax reasons that Brian from Searching from Tone brings up. That's the guy. It's a chorus pedal, and I will be giving this away when I hit my 1,000th sub mark. I think I might do a live stream with the whole wheel thing and offer it to, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask for details on how to do a giveaway because I've never done it before. But this is gonna be in somebody's hands. This chorus pedal. It's been on back
Nice.
order for a while. This is right up your alley too. This type of effect. So 80s.
Yeah, I have the shimmer thing going on most of mine. I also, the thing to note on that one is it is one with the top ports instead of the side ports
Yeah.
for
Let me show you.
for the patch.
I'll bring it back out. Yep, the top ports, and basically there's no knobs or anything. These are just push, and you could do a combination. You could just do one. You could do 1 and 2. You could do 1 and 3, or you could do all 4 of them if you want. I mess with all of them just very briefly, and I only think I messed with it for like 2 or 3 minutes. They all sounded the same to me, but I don't know anything about choruses. So this is going to go into somebody's hands that's not mine. Now, why did I buy it? I bought it because apparently Stevie Ray Vaughan was using some kind of a chorus effect in a lot of his recordings. I'm putting this up. In a kind of like a rack chorus effect. I forget who made it, and I tried to find a close facsimile of it in pedal form, and this was it. And it was on back order. I don't know what's going on with this company. Somebody said it in the Discord. What is it? What's the name of the company that makes TC Electronics? Anybody in the chat know?
I don't personally know. To be honest, this is going to surprise you. I don't actually follow the pedal makers very much because I don't actually have physical pedals.
That's all I got is physical pedals. But yeah, this company, I don't know, there's something Sound Tribe, I think is what it's called. This was on back order. I ordered this thing. It was only like 30 something bucks, and I ordered it like 3 or 4 months ago, and I kept on getting in contact, or Sweetwater kept on contacting me back saying, hey, it's on back order, you'll get it in June sometime. Yeah, and I did. So, and that's going to be in some lucky person's hands once maybe this week. I don't know.
Music Tribe, it looks like. I've scrolled back in the Discord. Music Tribe is the
Music
one that you're
Tribe.
thinking of.
Searching for Tone is here. Yeah, let's take the time to acknowledge some people. We got 2 Yards in the house, Chris, CD Nelson, Brandy Miller, and we have The Tooth. Did I say Brian from Searching for Tone? I probably did. Doesn't matter.
You did.
Okay.
That's okay. He deserves 2 shout outs.
He'll get 2 shout outs, but he's not as magnanimous as you are. The magnanimous muscle man of guitars. Hard for me to say that.
It's the beard really that does it. As somebody said, that the way things go is when you're trying to figure out where you are in the guitar world pecking order, is you start by seeing, can you beat the bald shredder? And if you can beat the bald shredder, then you have to go to Six String Stanger, because he's got the next bigger beard. And then if you can beat him, then I'm the final boss with the biggest beard here.
It's funny. Like, at one point, I had a beard that went down to here. And my wife, like, when we started dating, she was like, "Yeah, you need to get rid of that." She doesn't. Basically, she was like, "I don't want any." Was it Duck Dynasty? That's what she called me, Duck Dynasty. And then every time it gets too shaggy, she's like, "You need to trim that up." And I'm like, "Okay, I got to keep her happy some way." So
That's not big enough, CD. It's actually the same cable they use as the for the ropes in a wrestling ring, is the size strings that Stevie Ray Vaughan used.
that is a perfect segue into the topic of the week, right? Because we're going to be talking about strings, picks, accessories, and things like that. Why don't we go ahead and start with strings then? Chris,
Okay,
CD
good.
Nelson, which, by the way, if anybody is watching the stream in post or is currently on the stream and hasn't already, you should check out CD Nelson 87's channel. He's starting up his YouTube channel. He just released his first music or song in music video format's really, really amazing. It's like a little pushing and prodding to get him, not pushing and prodding, encouragement, I'll say, to get him to finally post something. And he did, and it came out freaking spectacular. His song,
Mhm.
from a
Sure
recording,
did. It was actually a very good song.
it was amazing. I mean, from the way it was recorded, the way it sounded, the way it was mixed, the guitar playing, the singing, the writing, and even down to the production of the video, the thing was spot on. So, look, huge shout out to CD Nelson. I mean, that's the whole point of this whole thing. We sit around, we talk about guitars, we watch guitar videos. I teach lessons, guitar lessons. Ultimate goal is to play music. That's what we're all here for. It's fun to talk about this other stuff, but let's, sit down and put some music down on record.
That's actually one of those things that's a kind of a trap for a lot of us in the hobby space, or even in the I'm getting a little more serious, but being in the hobby space, is that sometimes the gear becomes the thing, and we occasionally just like lose sight of actually playing the gear we have. It becomes a Pokemon thing where I'm collecting them all, but I'm not actually going out and doing anything with them.
Yeah, uh, you are the. I mean, that's the premise of your channel. It's like, stop messing around, use what you got, and start making music. So,
Yeah, and it sure is.
but we also we need the things. We do need the things, and some of the things we need. Let's start with strings. Like, what kind of strings do you use? What kind do I use? I'll go ahead and start. I use Ernie Ball Slinkies for my electric guitars. Tens. I use tens on
Those are tens. Yep.
because when you start out, not everybody, back in the 90s when I started out, they just gave you guitars with nines on them. That's the standard. And then, just like Chris said, going for that Stevie Ray Vaughan type of sound, I went up to 11s. Actually, I went up to 11s to get that thicker sound, and that's what I was playing for the longest time, 11s. Up until fairly recently, within the past 2 years, I went back down to 10s on my guitars because I just thought 11s are too much. What I needed was the G string, the famous G string on every guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It just sticks out like a sore thumb to me. And I just kept
Yep.
on going higher and higher and higher in gauge until I hit so where I can get a wound G string on my guitars because it's a thicker sound. I just couldn't. It always sounded. I would always bend things out of tune when I'm playing the bar chord, and it's always that G string, and that wound G string did help. And what I would do was go up to the highest level of string gauges until I found one with the wound G, and those were the 11s. But I did find these. This is I have a video about this. These are 17s. I know it's backwards, but these are 17s for the G string. I think it is, right? Well, this is a 17. I think I got a thicker gauge. This is a separate one for just the G string to kind of tame that nasty like G from just sticking out on everything. It was just overpowering to
Yeah.
me.
Well, see, I actually have the same issue. I prefer nines, but I prefer everything down from the high E to be a bit thicker. So I actually use the Ernie Ball hybrid nines, which have the thicker everything else. So my G is a 16. It's almost a 17 like yours.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Ernie Balls. Look, I'm not picky when it comes to electric guitar strings. In my personal opinion, the reason I got these is because they're just like a standard. I used to just get the I think Diodario XLs. Is that what they are? I used to use
Yeah.
those all exclusively. To me, they all sound the same. It's just a matter of what gauge you're going with, and I do want to hit acoustic guitars, but I just go for the cheapest.
For me, yeah, really the only difference between the cheaper, more expensive strings isn't the sound, but it's how long for me. It's how long it takes for you to get that stretch out of them when you first get the string on the guitar. It seems to me the cheaper ones they stay stretchy longer, so
Uh huh.
that keeping them in tune takes a little more work to get them to that point where that stretch doesn't knock you into a flatter tune when you
Yeah.
first change the string. That's the only difference that I've ever really felt on between a cheaper, more expensive string.
So yeah, let me just acknowledge a couple people here in the chat that are talking about strings. 2 yards says he uses Super Slinky eights. He has about 5 sets of Ernie Ball sevens. That's really really.
The I went through a seven phase myself a long time ago, and I'll be honest, I actually stayed with them up until I got really into playing guitar again. But the reason why I went heavier is because I was using the Kona at the time. Remember, I didn't have an
Yep.
electric when I started being really
Yeah.
big again, and that Kona's piezo did not pick up the low end on those lighter strings at all. Period. So I had to go to a heavier gauge so that my low end would vibrate enough for the piezo to pick it up. So I had to teach myself, and I had jumped all the way. I think I jumped up to 11 at one point on those.
Man, I couldn't imagine going that low, like sevens or eights. I can't even do nines. And I'll tell you the reason why here in a second. Chris or CD Nelson said I use mostly tens on his electrics, nines on a couple. The Cobalt and YXLs, those are kind of new. We all got free strings, I guess, from them. Or a lot of us did. And elixirs, and see, elixirs aren't worth it to me. It's too expensive. I'm not going to spend $15 on a pack of strings. Um, I usually just buy them in bulk nowadays anyway because I like to save money. I'm kind of cheap when it comes to that. But Brian from Searching from Tone says nines. He's going back to nines. He wants to tens because he's breaking the strings. I never break strings. I never do. I did a lot when I was first starting guitar. I don't maybe because I never changed them. What is that?
That's that's the G that came off of the T's that I broke the other day.
Oh, see, I never break them. I think the thing is with when breaking strings, it's usually on an electric guitar has something to do with the saddle, something down there that's just like not
This one
right.
snapped up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's I think it just was. I'll be honest, I was wailing at that point in time, and I don't know how long the strings were on there. They were the same strings whenever I got the guitar, so they may have just been old, and then
Yeah,
that
maybe.
nut just eventually sawed through to it. So
Yeah, maybe I just never broke strings because I didn't really change them as much. Look, when I was a kid, 14, 13, learning how to play guitar, I didn't know how to change my guitar strings. And every time I broke one, I'd go to the guitar store. My mom would take me, and I'd have them replace just that one string that
just
broke.
the one string.
Because every time it's freaking hilarious. I didn't, you don't know any better. It was like, I broke a string, Mom. She's like, okay. I was like, can you take me to the store? I was like, yeah. And they'd replace the string for me. Eventually, a guy that was at the counter there was like, he was a customer. He was like, you can't just change that one string. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, no, you change that one string, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. I remember that quote because I never heard it before. It's going to stick out. I was so young. Stick out like a sore thumb. You got to change them all. So he sat there and he taught me, just a customer, random older gentleman taught me how to restring a guitar. Ever since then, it's almost been kind of like And I do the same exact way he taught me. I do one over on my acoustics, one over and then under for everything, and I still to this day do it that way for the most part. And yeah, he was right. That's what he taught me. And but yeah, it's so funny that one string break, take it to the store and have them do it for me. It's freaking
Man, when you
hilarious.
don't know, you don't know. Speaking of
Yeah.
don't know, I do not I don't believe at 2 yards saying that you've never broke a string in the whole 4 years of playing. Not with the way you play.
I don't know. Uh, it's hard to argue with 2 yards. He uses Martin 11s. Okay, he's getting
So let's go to
crazy.
acoustics. Yeah,
We
let's
want to
switch
go
to
to
acoustics
acoustics,
now.
and one thing there that I think is a good segue to acoustics is the fact that the reason why I kind of enjoyed playing a thicker gauge string on my electric guitars is because I played a shitload of acoustic guitar. That's my main instrument. And you're playing with those 12s, and as soon as you go to nines on electric, you're just all over the place, overbending.
Yeah,
It's just,
the overbend is real. That's actually what it took me forever to fix. When I dropped all the way to sevens, it's oh my god, I had to relearn how to bend because they bent so much.
yeah, that's why I kind of stay towards the higher end because I'm agnostic. Personally I prefer to play my acoustic guitar. That's where I write all my songs, and it's just more fun to me at least. It's more of an honest sound in my opinion. It's just I enjoy it more. But going to an electric, I was always overbending, and so I went up. But then eventually, I'm just like, I just got to learn how to deal with it and just play lighter on both, acoustic and electrics. But yeah, let's go ahead. What kind of strings are you using on your Kona?
So I use the Ernie Ball Earthwood, the
Mm-hmm.
phosphor bronze. I actually use an extra light though, but the one I use has a higher lower end. So these are tens,
Yep.
but they have they go down to 50 on the low end because so I use these because they're a little lighter than the on the upper end, which I prefer. But it has that low end because, like I said, that Kona's piezo's low end and its preamp suck. So I need every bit of low end that I can get to come through that, and those work real well for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of the plugging in to stuff. See, when I'm recording with my acoustic, I don't plug in. I I use nowadays I use 13s, and I'll tell you why. I always used to use 12s, all exclusively 12s, and I wasn't really super brand loyal to a guitar string. I guess DR used to. I heard they were the best, so I went through a DR phase. Always had Martin strings, and the ones with Eric Clapton's face on them. I had those on for the longest time, and then I really didn't. I with those, what are those Ernie Ball Earth whatever strings? I've had
Wow.
those before. Had the
Hmm.
elixirs. I don't. You. I don't know. I just ended up like those. I stayed with those. Of course, acoustic guitars. I keep so basically I use the Martins and I keep it in a Ziploc bag because I order them in bulk, and
Hmm.
they're not vacuum sealed because they will send you 3 sets of strings in one pack, and as soon as you break the seal, then you have all the strings that are out. So I just keep them all in a
All of the
Ziploc.
yeah, they're all the.
Yeah, and that always kind of drive me nuts. Why can't they just send me separate packs? But so that's why I keep them in there. So I only use 13s now, and the reason that I use 13s, and these are phosphor bronze treated, whatever that means, lifespan. So they're equivalent to a what is it,
It's
elixir?
the same. Yeah, well, it's the same as what I've got on the Earthwound, and it makes them stand up to your corrosion on the fingers,
Exactly.
on the
So
finger stuff better.
basically, when I got my Martin about a year and a half ago, I went on the site and it said we ship all of our dreadnoughts with this string 13s. They ship all their guitars with 13s on them, and those are called medium. Right? They're not heavy gauge. Their 13s are
No,
medium.
they're
Believe it or
medium.
not.
Yeah.
I always thought that 12s were. 12s are considered light. Well, what do I know? But yeah, ever since then I put on the 13s. I don't notice a difference. My hands. I think my hand strength from playing acoustic guitar so much is just freaking ridiculous. Like I could pretty much. And speaking of that, Mountain Man has joined the chat. Welcome, Mountain Man. He says the same thing. He uses 13s on everything, acoustics and electrics.
Yeah,
That is nuts.
I can't bend a 13 on an electric and get a two-step bend on it. So it's just too much for me.
Oh, I don't. I mean, I can get a full step bend on 13s on my acoustic, but I don't think I could do two. I don't think so. I think I'd break the string or something. Power to
I'd
you,
break my
Mountain
finger
Man.
before I break the string.
Well, I mean, his name is Mountain Man, so he's probably got the strength. So, uh,
I may look like a mountain man, but I may not have the strength of one. So
I can't do it. I don't know. Yeah, but I agree. 13s on everything. I don't know if I'd put a 13 on a non-dreadnought. I have one non-dreadnought, but it's a pretty crappy Epiphone, which I just tried playing yesterday for the first time in a long time. It's just the action is too high. It's just a piece on my wall that looks good for the sake of looking good. That's it. Oh, so I brought this out. So I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts to buy some stuff for my car, and I found this little magnifying
right,
glass or mirror.
the little mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could spy on my wife. No, I'm just joking. So what I like to do with my acoustic guitars is I broke a bridge plate underneath one of my acoustic guitars from, I guess, stringing it and the ball end did something weird. So I take this guy and I put it in the sound hole and I make sure that I could see the string, the little circle thing on the bottom. What are those called? I don't know.
The small end. You said it correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the end, the circle end of the string, and make sure that they're all underneath that peg before I super tighten everything and say I'm ready to go, because I don't want to risk breaking or cracking another one of those bridge plates. It's not cheap.
No,
So,
that's a pretty cool idea. I like that. Yeah.
yep, I'm making sure because I'm so careful with that Martin. It's my most expensive guitar. It's not even that expensive of a guitar. It's a D15E, and I think it was like $1,300, which is a lot of money for me for a guitar. So,
That's still not a cheap guitar. So yeah, I mean, I would anything over seven, eight, $900, I would consider not a cheap guitar, even if it's not an expensive
yeah,
guitar.
it lives in the case. I mean, it's not a D28, which I'm gonna keep on bringing this up. When I hit the lottery, I'm gonna get a D28. I just need to go get lottery tickets. That's the problem. As soon as I do that, then I'll
Yeah,
be able to afford it.
you know that you can't win the lottery without playing in the lottery. That's for sure.
No, I always forget. I always forget about that. But yeah,
So you have a mirror as a non-standard guitar accessory. I guess we could talk about
yeah.
necessarily like things that aren't normal or accessories
Ooh,
for guitars,
yeah.
but you would
Let's.
call as a guitar accessory. So the other one I have is that I don't have um, a string cover to prevent
Harmonics.
the string noise. Yeah, exactly, the sympathetic harmonics that happen on that. So what I have is I have a hair tie, the same one I use to hold these back, but it doesn't fit. So here is my super MacGyver method. I'll get it right there so you can see it.
I noticed that the other day.
That's a bread clip. That is one of those twist
Oh,
ties
okay.
from a thing of bread, which is it's just used to cinch it down and make it and give it some give it a little bit, and then I've got it all tucked back in. So when you see it from the front, it looks, it doesn't look too bad. It looks, not necessarily all that DIY, but man, that is as DIY as I get there.
Like I don't mess with that stuff. I don't care. I like that. To me, that's just part of the sound of the guitar. It's never driven me crazy, but let me go grab it because I wanted to show a couple things. This is my Strat. So, you still do the whole bend and then bend behind the nut type of deal.
Yeah, you can still push it down, and actually, to be honest, it makes it a little easier because it kind of gives a cushion to your finger, so you're
Okay.
not pushing it into a really hard string.
Yeah. So when you were talking about bend or the stretching the strings out, this is probably gonna drive people nuts. But every single time I restring my guitars, here's what I do, and there's multiple ways to do this. I put the strings on, and I'll just pull up and bend them, and they'll go flat. I
I
change
do
the
that
string,
too.
bend it, tune it up, bend it, and then when it's good to go. I don't have that problem anymore. A lot of people are getting really crazy about that, but that's the way I do it. I've seen people like when they're putting the strings on. Let's say we're tuning the low E to an E. They'll go
Hmm.
E sharp and then back down to stretch it out that way when they're first putting it on. So they'll just
Yeah,
over.
I've seen people do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't, but I've seen people do that.
I don't do
Yeah,
that. I mean,
I just do the I grab it and give it a good solid tug and
yep,
then play it, tune it, tug it, play it until it stops. That tug stops
yep.
pulling it out of tune.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Look, with the nicer guitars that we have, it's such. Look, I don't really have to tune my guitars all that much. I don't know what the deal is. I think I've gotten them set up to the point where they're good quality tuners and all that. And I know a lot of your guitars, especially that Tease, probably doesn't really go out of tune that often, or the Reaper, right?
N- Neither the Tees or the Reaper rarely. If so, like once a week, it's dropped down to 4 or 5 cents off, and at that point, I'll bring it back up. But it usually stays right at tune.
Yeah, I mean, Chris CD Nelson said the same thing. He says I do the same as far as pulling the strings and all that, making sure it's stable and going that way. So that's seems to be a common thing. I just remember seeing something on what is it, the that pedal show. One of the
Mm.
guys said something. He does the bends behind the nut to kind of stretch it out. And he's like super delicate about this stuff. I'm like, look, it's a guitar. It's just guitar strings, just whatever. But how often? We were talking about this before the stream. How often are you changing your electric guitar strings? I'm curious about that.
Not nearly often enough. My goal would be for the amount that I play right now, probably monthly would be the appropriate amount of times I should be changing. Like as we were discussing before we came in, I'm probably putting in every single day at least 2 hours of playing on my guitars. So that's actually a lot of wear on those strings, and the ones I have on here have lasted pretty well, but I really should get into the habit of changing them probably about monthly. Now, back when I was only playing maybe a couple hours a week, then we're talking stretching out probably every 3 months, 4 months on that would be the appropriate amount of change in my mind of what I should be changing on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't change my electric guitar strings that much. I would say within a year, I probably change them once or twice. And I play them not nearly as much as you do, but I just don't feel like it's hard for me to tell when I need to change an electric guitar string. It's just more of, oh, I haven't done it in a while. I guess I should do it type of deal. It's not, I can't really hear the difference. I mean, can you hear a difference?
Yeah, actually I can, but it's in certain things like for me the more dead a string is, the harder it is for me to get a good pinch harmonic to ring out from it,
Mm,
for example. So it's things like those that really tell me, hey, these strings are kind of starting to get a little on the dead side. But when if I'm playing chords, especially open chords or those sort of things, it's real hard to tell the
yeah,
difference
you put
between active and dead.
put so much like effects on it. It's really this distortion, anything like that. It just kind of negates the strings deadness to a certain extent. Look, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't change mine probably as much as I probably should. But then again, I'm not really gigging with my electric guitar anymore these days, so I really don't need to. I get what I get, and I think it sounds fine. Saves me money in the long run, I guess. I mean, I can't say the same thing about acoustic guitars because I don't have a set date. Like I need to change these every few minutes. It's always like it just doesn't sound as alive to me anymore, and I'm like, it's about time I need to change these strings. So it's just a by feel. Those I'll change probably monthly on my main acoustics.
Yeah, for me, it really it for sure turns down to feel. And actually on the acoustic, what it is I'll notice it that it feels like the strings will feel a bit stickier. In other words, when I'm making my I'm moving fret changes, it really feels that like the string grabs my fingers just a touch more when I'm moving it. That's usually what tells me, hey, it's time to change the strings.
So CD Nelson said he noticed that dead strings will fret out on bends more. I guess that means it'll just like you're bending and it'll just stop. Stop hearing it. He says he noticed the tone for new versus old with acoustics. 2 Yards says I changed when the strings stop popping back to neutral. Do you know what that means? Popping back to neutral?
Mhm.
I don't know. Elaborate on that.
Not
Two
really.
yards. Um,
I'd love to know exactly what he means by that. Yeah.
I don't know. He mentioned something about sleeping in a bed of roses or something. So I don't know what kind of coffee he's drinking this morning, but I want some of that. But hey, Sean, thank you for joining. If you have to head out, that's fine. Oh, he says, Ubi, I just finished my song in a hat this morning. You'll have it a little later. Cool, cool.
Hopefully he sends it out. That's a good question, Mountain Man. No, but I use finger ease. So we'll let's go to other accessories.
I
So
didn't know we were going there.
myself and Dave's 6-string Stanger are absolute adherents to this stuff. Now Dave has a little more interesting use for this. I don't give myself a hit of it when I do it, but
This is what I use. Fast fret. It's backwards. It's Tsaf Turf. Tsaf
Yes.
Turf by SHG. No, this stuff, fast fret, I use this, not really for the strings. I use it for the fretboard. Whenever I change the strings on my acoustic guitar, or any guitar except for my Telecaster with a maple neck, I rub this on the fretboard, wipe it off, and that's how I condition my fretboard with it. I really don't use it. I mean, if I'm feeling like the strings are starting to get too dead and I don't want to change them, I'll rub this on the strings and it cleans it up. But this is what I use to kind of lubricate the fretboard and keep it nice.
yeah, I was not a proponent for using any sort of a string lubricant like that, because for me, I actually have a serious aversion to have anything greasy on my skin. It freaks me the hell out. So my thought was, ooh, boy, that's good. Isn't that going to feel kind of real nasty and greasy under your fingers? It doesn't, oddly enough. I rarely ever feel it. Now, maybe, I guess if I put like 5-10 coats on the strings, it would be, that might be the case, but I rarely feel it. The big thing that this does for me, it does two things. One, it does exactly what's on the tin. I noticed that if I don't put this on for a longer session, for an hour or 2 hours of playing, my fingers will hurt like hell. When I use this, my fingers do not hurt as much. And it correlates into the other reason why I use it, is that I lose probably half, if not more, of my fret noise when I'm moving my fingers on the frets. It actually prevents some of that extra vibration you get. Now, sometimes I want that because it adds to the sound of the guitar, but especially when I'm playing with real high gain, it picks it up so easy and so often that I need that help, because I'm not a super shredder, so I don't have perfectly articulate placement of my fingers. I'm a little sloppy on my changes, so I need every bit of a help I can get on that.
Yeah, I mean, and it also helps that I do see you wipe down your guitars before and after playing on your streams. So
Always.
I never
Always,
do.
yes.
I never do. I just plop it up on the wall and put it back. I wash my hands before I play, definitely, but I never wipe it down. But yeah, that whole string sound when you're on an acoustic, it can drive you nuts, and when you're recording, but it's just part of the song at that point.
But it's also part of the acoustic sound,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, especially if it's not happening with every change, it really feels like it's, that's actually sometimes it feels like it's a purposeful part of the
It
song.
feels like it's alive.
Yeah.
Let's take a look here. So at the chat, actually, Mountain Man, Gorilla Snot, he mentioned Gorilla Snot. That's something that I've heard as well. Look, I'm with you. I don't like lubricated strings. I mean, if it's like an Elixir or whatever I have in these Lifespan Martins, that's fine, but I don't like that greasiness that you get. That's why I don't use the fast fret on the strings. I use it on the fretboard. But, and it, makes it smell nicer and look nicer. But, let's see here. Sean, Music Nomad has string cleaner, Swiffer type thing. Anyone use that? I don't know about that. Mountain Man, of course, likes the Snot brand. So 2 Yards said, you fret a string, you let go. Notice how long it takes to fret again, thus popping back. I
don't think I've ever been able. I don't think I am in tune enough to know how quickly that change happens. I can visualize in my mind what he's trying to say, but I think that's beyond what I'm capable of being able to tell a difference on. So It
Yeah,
just further underscores that 2 Yards is the proto guitarist who's taught all of us how to play.
2 yards is amazing. I won't question anything that young man does or says.
I have to step away for just a second. I'm going to turn my camera off for a moment. I need
Do
to
that.
fix something that has fallen next to me.
I will vamp.
Vamp.
I'm gonna vamp. But so we were talking about that, and I did bring this out. This is a friction remover. Basically, it's a syringe of just lubrication that you put into your nut slots, and then you wipe it in with some of these things there. So this is something that I did not recent, but I did a video about accessories that you need for acoustic guitars, but this is for everything. If you're having issues with your guitar not staying in tune, a lot of people say 9 times out of 10 you got to check the nut first, or you should always check the nut first and make sure that's lubricated. You could use pencil lead, which is what I did and a lot of quote unquote pros use, but I think outside, because I'm too scared to file down nut slots myself because I don't want to go too far. um, Look, we had this discussion. Thanks, you're back. We had this discussion in the Discord and other people's streams about not being scared to work on your guitars. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I am terrified for the reason being I use those every day. Those are my tools, and if I mess it up, sure, I got other guitars, but it just hurts me a little bit not being able to use what I want when I need to. So I'm and I guess the same thing could be said if you take it in somewhere. You're probably going to wait longer, but at least you know it's going to get done right. And I don't want to be the one responsible for messing up my own guitar. I guess I should be, but
So going back to lubricating on the nut there,
hmm
what I heard, and this sounds logical because of science, but using graphite is good unless you end up being in a place that has a lot of high humidity, because then it will start becoming just as sticky as anything else in it, because graphite will attract some of that humidity and moisture and go from being that nice fine powder to being something that's more like a kind of like a putty. So it's one of those things where it's not a situation of, if you are in a higher humidity client, don't use it. It's be aware of it, because you'll need to reapply it more often, because you
yeah,
want to get out the stuff that's gotten sticky and replace it with stuff that's not as sticky.
yeah. I mean, of course, Brian mentioned GraphTech nut costs $15. And that's graph, right? Graphite. That's what pencil lead is, and you could just use pencil lead.
I think actually more what he's talking about is dive into cutting the nut slot, and if you screw it up, a replacement nut costs you about
Oh,
15
okay.
bucks.
I don't know. I'm not going to replace a nut because that would require filing down to a certain. I don't know. Look. I get apprehensive with that stuff. I'm surprised I even installed pickups in my thing. But in that case, if all else fails, I could have just taken it in and spent $200 and cried a little bit to get somebody else
I
to
think
do
your
it.
best I think your best option on that really is to get like, for example, if you're worried about this on for like your acoustic, is to get your hands on a cheap acoustic
Yep.
and buy a new nut and do a replacement nut on it, just to see what it's like,
Yeah.
and learn.
I don't have time for that, Ubi.
Well, again, see, now that's another
Yeah.
thing that's important, is understanding the value of your time
Right.
compared to how much something costs.
Yeah.
So, and there's actually there's a lot of products on the market that cater to those people who, I don't have a lot of time because I'm working, but that does mean I have money. So can I make up for that not having time by spending money on it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Look, we have lives. I got a full time job. I do YouTube videos. I have kids. Got a wife. Chores, bills to pay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time
Mm-hmm.
to 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 become a master luthier. I'll do the basic stuff, right? I don't, I'm not like Ted. Ted, that he lives for that stuff. I don't live. Ted, Brant, even Brian. I'm more along the lines of you and 2 yards. I just want to play the damn things and make it feel good for me to play. That's all I want to do. You fix
I do a
them.
little work, but I don't have a lot of my issue more is that I don't have really the tools and the space to do the work on them. I'd do a lot more work on guitars if I did, but I have just enough tools and just enough space to do setups on my guitars,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters to me. So
Yep, I agree. Look, the two said Graphtec Tusk isn't graphite; it's a man-made polymer like synthetic bone and self lubricates. So that is a very interesting comment because that Tusk, I think Tusk is what they make kitchen counters out of, or some kitchen counters. It is man-made kind of polymer. Now I sound like Breaking Bad polymers. Every time I hear that, I think of Breaking Bad. Walter White. Um, but yeah, my Martin guitar has a Tusk nut on it. I didn't know it was a self lubricating, meaning it probably always is kind of like Teflon almost, where it's just always slippery.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Hey, I mean, I just thought that Martin was cheaping out on me by putting some Tusk nut on there to kind of lower the costs. But look, and that's another debate: bone nut, bone saddles, this and
Well,
that. I don't know.
Husk and Bone are actually about the same price when you look at them on the markets.
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely not cheaping out by going with Tusk. It's just kind of a difference between, do you want a true bone, which is actually a dry nut that you definitely will need to put
Yeah.
lubrication on if that's an issue for you, or Tusk, which is kind of an always slippery, but it's not authentic bone. So it's one of those, which one is more important to you?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I was talking to Sean on his stream where I was just a complete ignorant guitarist or aspiring guitarist back in the day. I would just bring my guitar and say, I want it to sound like this. Do it. I just give it to them. And they'd be like, how much does it cost?
Hmm.
And they were like, $200. I'm like, okay. Because back in college, that was my college days. Just, you get those refund checks.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell mom and dad I got a $2,000 refund check. I'm going to go spend money on my guitar. and
Hmm.
and that and working, because I used to work at Sears. I freaking hated working at Sears when I was in college, but that's where a lot of my money went. And like they hooked me up because I didn't even know. I think what are the tuners? Is Sean, are you in there? I still don't know what they call
He just left.
Spurzel, is that a thing?
Spurzel is one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have on this guy here. These are Spurzel locking tuners. I think they cost like $200 or 150 at the time where I got them in. I had no clue, and then Sean's over here saying, "Keith, they hooked you up. They gave you the best top of the line." I'm like, "Damn, I didn't even know that until like a month ago." So go figure. I don't know. That's how
Yeah,
ignorant
no,
I am
those are
with that.
good. Those are definitely upper end tuners.
The ones I got from winning that fret knot diamond guitar, those actually are locking tuners too. I don't know what those are. They're not Spurzels, but those are really good as well. Even like my Telecasters, the Mexican Telecasters, it's not locking tuners. It's just traditional whatever they are. Those things are freaking awesome. They stay in tune just fine. I mean, whatever. I don't think too much. I tend to not think too much about this type of stuff. I mean, we're talking
Well,
about it
really,
now. I just don't think about it.
if you're a guitarist, if you're truly a guitarist, in other words, somebody who's there to play the guitar, you don't think about your equipment until the equipment doesn't work right,
You're
and then
right.
otherwise, that it's out of mind. So, that's definitely a mentality that a lot of players have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just give me a tool that works. And if it doesn't, it's like with the car. It's like I had to do my first brake change on a car ever because nowadays they have to change your brake pads and they have to change your rotors and they have to do like $200 per axle or something like that. So you're gonna spend almost close to $1,500 on a car like mine to just replace the brakes. And I'm like, nope, I'm gonna do this myself. I did it with my brother-in-law, but and that was a pain in the ass. But in the past, I would be like, if it involves anything with a car or anything like that, that can kill me if I do these wrong. I'm taking it into a professional to do. Like I don't know anything about cars, and I know how to drive them. Kind of the same thing. That analogy applies to guitar. I know how to play them. I don't know how to fix these
Hmm.
damn things.
Exactly.
I, the equivalent to changing the strings is filling up gas. Or I don't know what an oil change. I don't even do oil changes. It's too messy.
Yeah, I don't even do. If I unless I absolutely have to, I don't do any
Ooh, we got
at all.
Ted. Look, we got Ted in the house and 3J Music in the house. So
Hmm.
welcome, guys. It's very nice to see Ted here and 3J Music. Um,
So we had another topic we were going to talk about, but before we do that, we have one other
we
accessory
do,
we
yeah.
haven't touched on.
Uh huh.
So that's going to be. I'm curious to see what kind of picks you prefer to use.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I have my picks set out here. Let me start. There was this brand called Cool. It's just like you're cool, dude. They made cool picks, and that's what these are. They're cat tongue picks. Get
Hmm.
the reflection right. Maybe that there you
Yeah,
can
there's a
see.
little bit of a texture
It's
at
a
the top.
texture there. So there's the red ones, and I don't know what gauge this is. These are plastic or nylon or something like that. This is a .72, and then the green one, I don't know what it is, but it's lighter. I mainly use the red one for everything for the longest time. This was my pick for like 10, 15 years. And then last year, I was doing a demo for my acoustic guitar in on my Martin, and one of the comments I got was, "You need to switch your guitar pickup. It sounds too plunky. You know, you could hear it because of the plastic against it." And I'm like, "Oh, I never thought it sounded fine to me." And then they were like, "Well, you should probably use something more along the lines of Dunlop Tortex." And I was like, "Okay." And then I bought them, and ever since then, I've been using just the plain old Dunlop Tortex ones. And I have a video out that compared the two. You could hear the difference. It's very subtle on an acoustic guitar, but it doesn't have. My biggest thing, the reason I like the cool picks was because of that texture. Because I used to always drop my guitar picks, always. And with an acoustic guitar, it always lands in the sound hole, and then you have to shake that thing to get it out. I don't have that issue anymore. I don't really drop my picks that much, but that's what I've been rolling with for the longest time. Before I move on and let you go here, this is what Neil Young uses. These are gosh, what is it called? Herco Flex 50s. And I just said I don't drop guitar picks. It just fell out of my hand.
And
But
you just dropped one right there. Yeah.
Herco Flex 50s is what Neil Young uses, and in my opinion, he has the best guitar tone, acoustic guitar tone. Uh, that's it. That's a statement. He has the best. That's my opinion, though. And I use those for the longest time. And the cool thing about those is they have that texture on them too. But ever since then, straight up everything, just these Tortex. Common, I guess these are the workhorse, so to speak. So I don't put too much thought into that either. What about you?
So I don't. So I don't either. So for the longest time, especially when playing on acoustics, I actually played with a much thinner pick just because I played a lot of open chords,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave me a better ring to those rather than the harsh sound of playing a thicker pick on it. So, but when I went back to playing electrics, it made a big difference to me. So I have like a massive bag full of those little point .5 just standard
Yeah, thin
just
picks.
generic the thin Fender
Yeah.
branded, but they're not actually associated with Fender. So I had one leftover pick, which is just your generic.
Mm-hmm.
This was also a Fender branded, but this is a medium, so this is probably the point sevens. I bet somewhere in that neighborhood. Basically, exactly the same as that pick that you're holding there. I'll bet.
Yeah.
And it's a medium weight. So that's what I used for the longest time until I used it so much I put a big old crack right in the middle of it there.
Yeah.
So I don't use this pick. Instead, what I did was I had no money to replace it. So I carved one out of a piece of plastic that came from a shopping
Yep.
center's club
Loyalty
card
card.
that
Yeah.
is right at the same thickness. This is almost identical thickness
Yep.
to this pick right here. And so I shaved it out, and then I took my file and beveled all the edges
Mm-hmm.
around on the top back in there. This thing has lasted me for about 6 months with no problems. I can't drop it for whatever reason. If it will not come out of my hand. And when I do drop it, the coloring on it, when this side lines up, you'll see it no matter where it lands. If this side lands up, you see it no matter.
Yep.
I can't lose it. It's not like I've tried, but like every other pick I've ever owned, this thing just it won't go away. So I make my own now.
Yeah, I think I've seen those before, those before. I have exactly the same. They have price choppers here in Kansas City. That's our grocery store. So
Yep.
we have the Price Chopper cards, and I cut one of those up. They have like these hole puncher things that they'll punch a card in a guitar pick shape. I never used it.
Yeah, and I've seen those, and there's a problem with using the punch thing is that they give you bad jagged edges. You would think it wouldn't, but it does. Um, so I actually, if I had one of those, and I considered buying one just so I could make my own picks, but you would need to do a lot of additional shaping on the outside of this. And since I was like, I'm gonna have to do a lot of shaping on it anyways, instead of doing that, I actually take the pick shape that I want from this one and use it to trace it
Right.
onto the card there, and then I manually cut it so that I've got the right shape, and then I'm working on it with a little piece with the inward board,
It's
basically
super
metal inward board.
customized, super customizable, like the way you did it. So, if you ever have an issue, this is just a tip to everybody that's watching. If you ever have an issue with dropping picks and you like that texture, because I see some people in the chat, 3J said the same thing. He likes the feel of the texture. What I did with this Dunlop, if you could see it right
I
here,
see a little bit of like did you put like some sort of a tape on it,
skateboard deck tape.
a grip tape? Yes. Okay. Yes.
I ordered some green deck skateboard tape from Amazon, cut up on both sides. So if you ever get sweaty and you're playing outside,
I can see that.
this
Yeah, I can see that.
It's not falling out of your fingers. I read that, I think, on Gear Page or something like that. Somebody was like, I just use
I don't know.
skate
I'll
deck."
be honest. I don't know why I didn't think about that because I was a skater back when I was.
Yep. So I I put it on there and I don't use it, but I was just like, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, let's do that. Before we move on to the next topic and kind of wrap things up, I wanted to talk about what Mountain Man said. He said he solved the problem by never using a pick. Now, he plays a lot of acoustic guitar. Mountain Man if you haven't checked his channel out, he's gotten a playlist called Ascending. That's his album. Give it a listen. Anybody that's on the chat that hasn't subscribed to him, his freaking skills on an acoustic guitar are amazing. He did a cover of Jimi Hendrix All Along the Watchtower, Red House. You got to watch that Red House one that he did on acoustic guitar. That dude could wail on acoustic guitar, and I didn't even know he films all his stuff with dark. It's pretty dark video, so you don't see what he's using. I didn't know he didn't use a pick. Dude's awesome. Whenever I'm recording nowadays for my songs, I can't use a pick because I could hear the pick too much. And so whenever I collaborate with 2 Yards, for the most part, I'm just using my thumb and just doing strumming with my fingers that way. I don't know why. It's just the mic is just picks up way too much pick noise whenever I'm playing on my acoustic, and I just play too loud. So that's just something.
That's my problem is, and then the reason why I use a pick when I'm playing acoustic. And for the longest time, I didn't. I actually, when I first started playing, I started on acoustic, and I learned mainly from finger. I learned finger style really. Like one of the first things. This is going to be crazy, but one of the first things I learned all the way through was Randy Rhoads' D, which is a hardcore finger style classic / Randy Rhoads song. So, but I can't get a consistent enough sound not using a pick when I play my acoustic. Like I've tried to use just my thumb to strum with it, and it just the dynamics between my down and up strums sound so different that I have to go back to a pick because I can't get an even dynamic on it.
What I get around to doing sometimes if I'm strumming without a pick, I just act like I'm holding a pick and just do it that way. It works just fine for me. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, that's actually how I do it when I'm not using a pick.
Yeah,
but it's just, and I think it's just because of like on a down strum, I'm like hitting the nail on my index finger, but on the up strum, I'm not hitting the nail on the thumb. I'm hitting the meat of the skin there. So I'm getting, like I said, I'm getting 2 different dynamics on those directions when I'm strumming it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. We didn't even get to pick up, so we're going to have to table that one for the next time we get up on the stream. But I wanted to switch topics before we close things out and talk about the J-Rig. Let me know.
Oh, yes. All right. So we were talking earlier about having time versus having money. So a lot of people have the time to get into learning something. And one of the things I had was a ton of time, but not a lot of money, and I wanted to sound great guitar wise. So I learned how to set up an awesome digital chain to give myself a really good sound. And I also have been a streamer for a long period of time. So of course I wanted to do that live. I wanted to be able to stream that really cool that sound live. And so I have my setup. If you go watch me on live, and I tell you what, I get a lot more. I get more people congratulating on me on my tone than on my playing, and that's probably good because I have a better tone than I am as a guitar player. But it's a really good solid setup, and it's got a massive array of tones because I've spent a lot of time dialing in an 80s mid forward 80s sound, scooped metal sounds, kind of a hybrid sound on that, and my clean stuff sounds really good. I've got a really awesome ambient
Mm-hmm.
tone that I've go through there. I've got a nice pure sparkly Fender Twin type sound setup. All this is set up there, and it's all set up to go properly through my live stream channel and the whole 9 yards. All it took for me to become a master on that is, I don't know, 100 to 300 hours of learning and teaching myself all this,
Mm-hmm.
plus all the skills I had in computers and everything before that. So anybody can learn to do what I just did there. Set yourself up a live rig if you have the equipment for it, the knowledge of IT background that I have, and then you'll spend all the time learning to set that chain up. A lot of people don't have 1,000 hours to put into getting themselves an awesome rig on there. So I said, how about I actually do it for you? So that's where it came up with the idea for the J rig. I'll drop the link in the chat so people can go and look at what it is.
Gotcha.
So basically what I'm selling is and this is just the first version of it. There will be more that will come out, but it's literally I actually will, for you, I will source a laptop that will do everything that my rig will do. I will source an audio interface. I will have them shipped to me. Then I will set every single thing up so that it sounds as close to my setup as possible. All you have to do is add your guitar. You plug your guitar cable into it. All the tones I have set up is already preset up there. All the audio routing through Voicemeeter is all preset up. OBS is already set up and ready to go. It's got a scene set up. All the audio is going into it correctly. Cakewalk and Reaper are both fully set up so that if you wanted to record and play on stream or just record, those are already pre-set up. And my secret sauce is I don't use either of those for my live rig. I use a VST container, so it's even lighter than a DAW, called Cannibal Light.
Do you use a container?
And basically what it is, yeah, so a VST container is the part of a DAW like Reaper or Cakewalk where you add effects into
Gotcha.
it. That's where you add those VSTs in it.
We're not talking
So
Docker
it's just
containers.
no, it's not a Docker. But that section that contains those VSTs, just that part of it in a standalone program. So you don't have the multiple lanes, you don't have all the recording, you don't have all the other overhead of the DAW, just that one part so that it's a lighter thing. It doesn't affect your system as much, and it allows for better change. So I have all of this pre-set up, and then I ship it out to you. And when you receive it, you take the laptop, you put I even have it set up a mounting on the laptop if you want to mount the interface to the laptop. You set that up, you plug it in, you fire up the computer. There's icons and everything. This for whatever setup you want to do. You hit this, everything that needs to launch launches. You plug your guitar in, you plug a microphone in if you want because the interface has an XLR connection. If you don't want it, it will default to the microphone off of the webcam on it. Pre-set up. You go in there, you log into your YouTube, you log into your Twitch, whatever you need to do in OBS, you hit a button and you're live and you're playing with basically my setup. So that's what a J-Rig is.
Okay, and are there kind of like... All right, first of all, you said you put a link. Let me check out this link. Well, I'm going to... Where's your thing? There it is. Okay, so what is this? Infinite Possibility?
Infinite Possibility Media is a company that Brandy and I both. It's our company that's a media company basically.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So I see here. So I see, is that a Focusrite Scarlett? Okay.
It is a Focusrite Scarlett that I'm using. I'm using the third gen instead of the fourth gen specifically because the fourth gen took out that XLR connector for the mic, and I want people to be able to run a good condenser mic through it if they wanted to. So
Yeah,
we're using a
definitely.
third gen.
Yeah, I mean, condenser mics are the way to go. Anybody curious as to condenser mics, I recommend this one I have here. It's a Lewitt. I think what's his name? Oh gosh, who's the rubber duck guy? The lamb. He
Hmm.
uses the same mic. Sean uses the same mic. There's another guy from the music salon. He has a channel. He uses the same. It's a good mic. This is what I record. I record my acoustic guitars with this. My vocals with this. I use it as a room mic for my electric guitar. So it's a really good mic. It's about 150. So it's not cheap, but it is a cheap mic. You know, they're not cheap. Microphones are expensive. You know,
Condensers, like a really good, like
yeah.
an electro voice when was used in studios for radio, those are $600-700 microphones.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, it's not your mic there is a entry level into
Yes.
into the good condenser mic world is what you've got there. It's
Yeah.
not cheap, but it's not as expensive as the others.
Exactly. It's like my Martin guitar. It's not cheap, but it's one of the cheaper Martins out there. So it's an entry level kind of Martin. It's not whatever. You get the point, everybody. So I think everybody should check out that J rig if you're interested in that setup, because that's everything's pre-built. OBS is you can literally get that thing and start streaming on YouTube from within a few hours after you
Within
get it. And
within within 15 minutes if you
well,
follow
yeah,
the
to
instructions. So I've purchased so I've had my first purchase of the rig.
mm-hmm.
So I actually have hardware coming in to build this up, and what I will be doing is we'll be doing some additional marketing once I get that in there. The customer is going to wait while I do some videos and stuff on it. So I'm going to do some videos showing off the capabilities of it, but as also on how to do the stuff on
Okay.
it. So the instructional videos and those sort of things. So within probably by next weekend, I'll start having additional stuff up on the site, actual pictures of the rig in use, and actually using the rig and doing videos showcasing, hey, this is what the interface looks like. This is it,
Yeah.
there'll probably be a video of this is your out of box experience, and I will take it, set it up, plug my guitar in, show you all the steps it would need to do to go live and those sort of things. So
Well,
that's all coming because I finally have one.
what you need to do is give me an affiliate link, and I'll go ahead and shill for you. Just joking with you. I'll put that link in my descriptions, and mention that in videos. So I think we're good, man. We hit up. We're right up on an hour, and we started on time, and we had no glitches or nobody's complaining in the chat. We had Mountain Man. We had him gain a few subscribers, justifiably so. Definitely check his stuff out. That guy, look, man, he needs to move to Mountain Man. If you're listening, move to Nashville, go to a coffee shop, play. You'll get picked up. You just got to go do it, man. The dude's voice is out of this world. It's just, and he writes original music. It's just right up my alley. He likes the same artists. He likes Neil Young. He likes Jimi Hendrix. I mean, we might as well be best friends. So, um, all right. So let's wrap things up here. Acknowledge some of the folks that joined us today, which I do. This is a record number of people that have been on. We had I think at one point 12 people, which is high for me, but we're gaining steam here. So, um, we had 2 Yards join us. That is my cohort. He is, we all know about 2 Yards. Makes great music. He's very prolific. Subscribe to him if you haven't. Everybody here has. Brian from Searching from Tone joined us. The OG. CD Nelson. Brandy Miller, your lovely wife. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's her.
And she is going to be a D. I never played Dungeons and D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. I've never done that before. I want to play it. We were talking about that offline, by the way, if anybody that wasn't listening, or doesn't know about it. So we did have the Tooth join us. Snug D, I completely miss you. He said that.
Yeah, Snug snuck in on there on us.
Snuck in. All right. Snug snuck in. Of course, we talked about Mountain Man quite a bit. Sean joined us for a little bit. Thank you for coming, Sean. I know he's busy. He's on the West Coast. So what time is it? It's 2 hours back from us. We're in Central Time. I'm in Kansas City for anybody that doesn't know. The Tooth joined us. And I think that... Oh, no. We got Will Red joined us for a little bit here. He's still on. Ted, of course. Oh, BBM. I completely missed BBM. He said, I have all the things in your J rig, including Focusrite. So yeah, he's putting out a bunch of music too. So subscribe to him if you haven't already.
Yeah, and
Um,
just to address what BBM said there I am working on two things.
uh huh.
Either I'm working on an auto installer once I get everything working correctly that I'll call the DIY version, so that you can, in theory, take the JRig software, take the JRig, put it on your computer. It will try to do all the downloads and do all the configuration for you.
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
kind of up in the air because I don't have control over what hardware is being used and those sort of things, so it may or may not work. So that'll
Yeah.
be for people like BBM who already have all the hardware, or, and this is going to come before that, is what I call the JRig, the JRig bare bones, which is you send me a laptop with the required amount of specs and an interface that matches a particular list of interfaces that I know that will work with my setup. And instead of you paying for the whole 9 yards, you ship me your equipment. I do the setup and install there, ship it back to you, and it'll be a cheaper thing. But that's all that's all down the road. But that won't
Yeah.
be too far down the road. But I'm answering what BBM asked on that particular
That
one.
that would be something, since I mean, even for somebody like myself, I mean, I have all the stuff, but that's something that I would be able to take advantage of too. Look, I am so glad, like, I think everybody here has thanked you tremendously, because even for me, you've helped me out a ton with a lot of stuff. But those VSTs that you gave me, the Tokyo things, I don't know their
Mm-hmm.
names. Those are freaking
Tokyo Don.
amazing, amazing plugins. I love them. That it's like the one thing
So
that I
yeah,
hated.
and I want to reiterate, this isn't, and there was somebody who brought this up, and it was a legitimate concern. This isn't me trying to market to my friends and make money off of them. This is literally here for those people who just don't have the time or the technical skills
Yeah.
to be able to set this up. For those people, if you have the time and you have the technical skills, join me on Tuesdays for my Tech Talk
Mm-hmm.
streams. Those are 100% free, and we're going through the entire setup I have for the JRig. And if you need individual little helps here and there, I'm never going to charge you for those. You're just get with me off stream, and I, just like I did with you,
Mm-hmm.
like I've done with Ted, I will do my best to help you set up what you've got, because
Yeah.
this is not about me trying to make money. This is about me making more content creators and more music makers, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Yep. That's valiant effort. That's why I called you the master of minstrels, the magnanimous muscle
I
man of guitar, and the bodacious beard of wisdom, the
I'll
Ubie.
take it. I'll take it
All
all.
right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Ubi, once again for our bi-weekly podcast style stream. So I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Be sure to check out Ubi's many various live streams that occur pretty much all, is it every day of the week?
We're almost there. Thursday is the only day I have off during the middle of the
You
week.
need a little bit of respite every now and then. We have to watch a lot of stuff. I myself, so yeah, definitely Mountain Man. If you're still there, tune in on Tuesdays. Definitely before Ted Talks Guitar stream. The Ubi's little tech talk is really helpful. I still have to mess with that latency thing that we talked about, but I have that saved. So as far as I'm concerned, this pretty much wraps the live stream up. I have a video coming out tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. CST, so be sure to watch that whenever you have time. I realize some people are in church during that time, but it doesn't matter. It'll be waiting for you when you get there. And with that said, I hope everybody stays cool out there, and we will see you here in a couple weeks.